Welcome to Storytime at the Roo Bus, a weekly podcast about the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. I'm your host, Sharla.
And I'm Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Yeah, what's up?
How many whoops does it take to screw in a light bulb?
None, because it's already lit, fam.
Ooh.
I love that stupid joke so much. It's my go-to festival joke, and I'm fearing that everyone has already heard it by now.
Probably.
Maybe that's why it's so good, because it continues to be stupid and funny.
Oh,
I don't know.
Goodness. We have a very, very, very special guest on this week's episode.
Yeah, we've got Evan Brown from Jersey on. He is a good friend to many people in the Bonnaroo community. You've probably heard him as a guest on the What podcast before. He's been on a time or two with us in the past. He has been instrumental with our camp, and he is now a Totem board member. He's helping us out a ton with that, too. He's a smart guy. He's an engineer. I just learned that he was an Eagle Scout back in the day.
Right? That makes so much more sense now.
It does. I'm now learning his origin story, and it's all coming together.
His origin story.
But hey, we're going to talk with him here in just a few minutes. We got a couple of things to go through first. First of all, I highly, highly, highly encourage everyone to go check out the new podcast, The Fem Flock. It is a new show that is dropping this week from friend of the show, Carrie Yates, and many of her friends. She's big in the Goose community and just the jam band community in general, right?
Yes, she is amazing, and you should definitely go check out this podcast. It is a women-led podcast, which is going to be fantastic, so definitely go check that out.
If you have been following most of the festival community kind of centralized to Bonnaroo, you've probably seen some of their teasers. They've got these cool colorful pictures with women throwing glitter around or something like that. They will be dropping their first episode tomorrow. So today, for most of you listening to this on December 5th, please go listen to it. I can't wait to listen to it myself.
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
I have heard some of the guests that they are going to have on eventually. I'm real excited to hear from everyone. I put in a plug. I think that our good friend Chloe from Iowa would be amazing to have on their show. Mm-hmm. And I'm biased, but I think you would be great to have on there as well. I remember you got hardcore into Goose for about a year.
I did, when they played Bonnaroo that year.
Didn't you go pretty far up in that crowd when they played?
Yes, Madison, our friend Madison from Canada, she and I were in the front, and then we eventually moved to the back. Got a little crowded up there, but...
I remember I saw Goose with Brooklyn down at Okeechobee for a little bit, and she said this in the most loving way possible, I promise. But she was like, this is some wook shit. But look...
They're not really.
No, I wouldn't say that they are among the wookiest jam
bands. No, I've definitely seen wookier.
Well, look.
I've definitely seen wookier.
I joked about this today, but, they announced that Fish is going to be playing the Sphere in Vegas for a couple of dates around April 20th, and that place is going to set the Guinness World Record for the biggest hot box. I'm just going to put it that way. And look, if you saying that you wouldn't want to be at that show, you lying. I'm not going to go out of my way to go to that, but after seeing Fish here at the Orion in Huntsville last summer, yeah, that would be a good time. Would it for you?
Yeah.
Would it be too much to have like Fish's visuals on that giant sphere?
Oh, that'd be cool.
It might be too much.
I don't know. I like outdoor shows.
Yeah, I might make an exception for the Sphere.
The Sphere, though. Yeah, that might be cool.
I didn't put this in our notes, but you and I were talking about this yesterday, I think, about like...
outdoor shows.
What kind of shows
yeah.
you prefer seeing. And yeah, I think I'm getting to be... I don't think jaded is the right word, but I'm getting to where like I just don't like going to indoor venues that much anymore.
I also don't like going to like assigned seating.
Yeah, that's another thing. That was another thing that made that Fish show great. It was GA everywhere. You just go wherever you can find a seat. Yeah. And you can mosey around and meet friends and find Wookiee things to get into and stuff. I don't like sitting in an assigned seat. Mm-hmm. It's just not my thing anymore. When
we saw Smashing Pumpkins, it was sit here, do not move.
Yeah. Sit there and enjoy the show quietly. Don't do anything fun. Yeah, I just can't do it anymore. I have to have a big field at Bonnaroo. I have to have the big grassy area like at the Ascend Amphitheater in Nashville. Or that one in Atlanta where we saw Dead and Company this summer.
Yeah.
Or just have at it like we did for Fish at the
Orion.
What
kind of shows do you guys like? Tell us.
Yeah.
Tweet us and tell us.
But also, to go back to what we were talking about, go listen to the Fem Flock.
Yes.
The
Fem Flock. It's the FEMME Flock.
Yeah, look them up on Instagram, and you'll find where you can.
Or look them up on Twitter. Either one.
By the time you're listening to this, you could probably subscribe to them on Spotify. I'm sure. So the Femme Flock, go check them out.
All right, so let's talk some Bonnaroo rumors.
Oh boy, how deep into these waters do we want to get this week? Last week I had talked about how it was crazy that we didn't really know who the top 3 headliners may be, but I think a very blurry picture is starting to become a little bit more clear this week.
I agree.
So again, check in with that Reddit thread by Rimard. I'm going to pronounce his name differently every week. Ramired. He's been keeping track of all this, but you may have seen in the past few days that there was an extension of the Red Hot Chili Peppers tour announced that mysteriously does not have any Tennessee dates and clearly has a wide open gap just for Bonnaroo. I mean, nobody can say with 100% accuracy that, yes, we are going to get them, but it would pretty much be a shock at this point if we did not get the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Right.
And on today, on the 4th of December, there was a lot of discussion about this. A lot of people were going on like, oh, hey, we would have had them 3 times over the course of one decade. But to me, this is just Daniel's opinion, it will have been 6 or 7 years since we've had them last. John Frusciante, or however you say his last name, is back, the OG guitarist. He was not with them the last time that they were at Roo. And I hate that us elder millennials are going to be aged by this, but it was 7 years ago. There's going to be a ton of people that have not seen them. So I think it is fresh for the new people at this point.
I mean, I would be fine seeing them again.
Yeah, you and I kind of had a spirit quest last time they played. That's all we'll say about that. So I would enjoy paying more attention to the Chili Peppers this time around, if you know what I'm saying. But no, I'm good with it. I know people have different opinions, but I think that the pickings are slim for headliners this year. And I think that is a solid choice that will sell tickets and also put on a fun show one night. So they're a rock and roll Hall of Fame band. I have no issue with having them back. I'm more than happy to have them.
Okay, so I've got this thread pulled up here from the Reddit, and we're going to go through the extremely likely, verified, rumored Roo clue. So the artists that are extremely likely, verified, rumor are Roo clue. So right now we've got Excision, Hozier, Casablanca, Pretty Lights, Ading the Artist, Brittany Howard, Disco Lines, Key Glock, Post Malone, and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I mean, that sounds like a party to me.
Yep. I mean, I'd be good with all that.
Yeah, Key Glock was Roo clue number 3, right? That was pretty universally agreed, wasn't it?
Pretty much universally agreed.
Everybody else was like, Joe Biden Sunrise set.
It's written here as very likely Roo clue number 3.
Yeah. I don't think we had it confirmed from somebody like
Festival,
but I mean, come on, yeah. We know it pretty much was.
Yeah.
So going by that, it sounds like perhaps, and we don't know this for sure, 2 of the 3 headliners might be Chili Peppers and Post Malone. Maybe the third, if you believe some of the other conversation that has cropped up, could be either Dave Matthews or a Dave Matthews band. How would you feel about that potential but unconfirmed top 3?
Oh, yeah, I would be down for that.
I mean,
with that. How would I feel about it personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
We have managed to never see Dave Matthews
somehow
band.
In my whole life of lives, I've never saw Dave Matthews.
I don't know how that's possible at this point with as many things as we've gone to. And I know that's a whole other conversation. Like, pour one out for everybody that was on the river in Chicago that one day. I did not mean to make that pun. But listen, I know it kind of ages me a little bit, but since I've never seen him, I would love to see him. I would be happy to have him there. I think we all need to get a little less precious about lineups. There's never going to be a lineup that specifically caters to one person, even though we may joke about it sometimes. Like, these are things that are meant to appeal to literally everybody, so it can't appeal to one person, one demographic, one genre, anything like that.
Oh, well, there will always, every year when the lineup comes out, there will always be complaints about the lineup. That's never going to end.
I remember people complaining so much about the 2016 lineup, but that still, to this point, is my favorite Bonnaroo ever.
There were people, honest to God, complaining about the 2020 lineup.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not shocked, though.
Yes. There was, and I mean this in the most sincere way. I remember, like, influential people, like higher level people. I mean, I'm obviously not going to name names here, but there were higher level people complaining about the 2020 lineup and saying, well, I'm just not going this year. It's been a great
Well, they didn't go that year.
12 years for me, et cetera, and so forth. Yeah, they didn't go. It's been a great 12 years. It has to come to an end. And I'm like, this is the best lineup of all time. Like, what do you...
A funny meme that I always hear is like, bro, this ain't the airport. You don't have to announce your departure.
Right, exactly. But yes, so there will always be complaints about the lineup, but it's not meant to be, the lineup is not your shoe size. It's like, I don't know what else to say. Like,
well, look, I'm not going to be a complete apologist. I've always said that, like, look, it's my favorite event in the world, but like, I will, call them as I see them when I see something that I don't like. I think that, let's say, for example, 2017 and 2018, those were not great lineups.
Mm-hmm, right.
Now, I loved having U2 there and Chili Peppers the last time, but the rest of the lineup pretty clearly suffered because they spent more money than usual on one headliner. Mm-hmm. And the year that we had Eminem and The Killers and Muse was subjectively, I think, while it wasn't a terrible lineup, it was just not up to the par that Bonnaroo has set for itself. I don't think they have gone to those lows since. Other people can subjectively disagree with that, and that's fine.
But then, for some people, that was probably their favorite lineup ever.
I mean, that's very true.
See?
That's very true. I think post-COVID lineups, and the two that we have had so far, have hints of old school Bonnaroos in which there's a little bit of something for everybody, but also, yeah, let's be clear, it is very Live Nation influence, where sometimes if you took a couple of the wild names out of the lineup, it would look pretty close to Lollapalooza. But they know that it has to be specific to Bonnaroo. You have to remember that you can't just book whoever you want. It's not like going to Publix or Walmart or something like that.
So when do you think the lineup is coming out?
Well, we have heard, and I don't want to out anybody, that January 9th is the date to look for.
Right,
However,
that's the rumor that's going around, January the 9th.
And I want to be careful what I say because I don't want to get anybody in hot water, but it could be pushed back from that point because apparently there's been some back and forth with one particular act. And I don't want to call them out, but apparently that one act would not be the biggest font name. Let's put it that way. So I'm a little confused about that particular rumor that I don't want to mention in specific because it's unconfirmed, but January 9th looks like it would be the earliest that we would get it, and it might get pushed back a week and change if whatever that issue is doesn't get sorted out.
Okay.
I would be surprised if we didn't get it January 9th. So we're sitting here just a month and change away from getting it. And you know how this works. We're going to hear a lot of the names that will be on the poster before the poster comes out.
So speaking of the poster and the lineup, I think that Bonnaroo needs to book some more female artists.
Yeah, I agree. I think there have been tweets and Instagram stories in the past critiquing lineups by highlighting the low percentage of women that are on lineups. Mm-hmm. And like we said before, you can't just go out and say, oh, I want this person, this person, this person to come play my festival. But in the year of our Lord 2023-4, you got to put forth the effort for there to be some more equity on the lineup. I have one person I want to suggest. You already know.
Oh, yeah, we know.
Wanda. The Wanda band. She drives the Wanda van. Look, I got with some... I'll just be transparent. I got with our friends today. I'm like, hey, we need to campaign for Wanda to be there. And thankfully, we have a lot of people that wanted to support her as well. She did a great job for us out in Outeroo in the group camp area last year. Look, she signed to the same record label as St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Like, she has been mentored by John Paul White from the Civil Wars. She has put in blood, sweat, and tears. Her new album is amazing. She's technically played Bonnaroo. I want her to be on the Bonnaroo poster. Go listen to her on Spotify. Look up the Wanda Band. She's fantastic. If by whatever reason we were to get somebody like Boy Genius this coming year, she would be an excellent pairing for that act. Mm-hmm.
Wanda is amazing. She is fantastic. She's a great person. She is just a wonderful, incredible person. And she, like Daniel said, she played the campground last year. So high push for Wanda.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And by the way, if you want to, please join our campaign. Tweet at Bonnaroo, tag Wanda, say, hey, you want to see her as an act on Thursday or maybe at the Who stage. I think she would be a great fit for it. I think she has earned it, and she should play it. I want to see Wanda's name on the Bonnaroo poster when it comes out in here in about a month.
The Wanda Band.
The Wanda Band, yes. Wanda with the Wanda Band. She drives the Wanda van.
Yes.
Look, she's there. She's open for Jason Isbell. Like, her resume is perfect for this. She's got to be there. Anyways, we could go on about that all night. Do you want to get to our talk with Evan Brown? Not Evan Bonnaroo. Evan Brown.
I do, yes.
He is a new board member with Totem. We're going to talk a little bit about his adventure with Moon Taxi, kind of about what he does with his photography, kind of how he sets it up, the equipment that he uses, and why am I even talking about it? We should just go talk with him and he can tell you about it. Let's go. All right, everybody, we are back with Evan Bonnaroo himself, but I'm not going to pick at him too much about that name. It's Evan Brown from Jersey. What's up, my man?
Hey, good evening. How's it going?
Good evening to you, too. What have you been up to? What's been going on for you? Anything exciting?
I had a really busy fall season. Did See Here Now, which is local on the beach in Asbury Park, Ocean's Calling in Ocean City, Maryland, which is a new festival. They're pretty much sister festivals run by C3. A lot of local shows too, and I had a couple weddings in various slightly inconvenient locations.
I was going to make some wedding jokes, but instead, why don't you give us some little mini reviews of those two festivals that you were talking about? How did they go? How were the lineups? How were the vibes there?
Yeah, so the See Here Now, they're very similar in total. See Here Now is run by like Danny Clinch, because his gallery is in Asbury Park. So it's kind of like rock. It's pretty much rock with like a surf edge to it. And then they even have like a surfing competition during the day.
Really? I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah. So we were lucky enough to have the Foos for that one. The Killers were the other headliner, Royal Blood. Yeah, so that was a great lineup. And their lineups keep getting better every year. I think as more people get on the map, and they're starting to sell at that festival, and I think it sold out this year in 20 minutes. So and then Ocean's Calling, go ahead.
Those festivals kind of come across to me as like regional festivals just because I'm not in the area, but from the lineups that you're talking about, they definitely have like a national scale. Like, how would you define those?
Yeah, I would probably say like semi-regional, kind of like kind of more like Firefly, where if you're within a 2-hour drive, you might as well go. Yeah. Especially because the tickets are less than $300.
Not bad.
Yeah. So Ocean's Calling was in Ocean City, Maryland. It actually got rained out last year because of a hurricane. This year was the first proper year. This one's even more like surfy, like so. And then they had a bunch of like 90s bands like Gin Blossoms. Headliners were Jack Johnson, John Mayer, and the Lumineers. So kind of like, and then they also had like Weezer play. A lot of like more acoustic rock. Sheryl Crow was there as well.
Evan, this mostly sounds like your playlist.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. That's why 2023 has been such a great year to me lineup wise. So
I was the Gin Blossoms. I saw them once years ago. They are one of those like quintessentials 90 alt radio kind of bands.
Yeah. I wasn't able to catch them because the transportation system there was
oh no,
inundated with festival goers. So getting to the festival was tough every day. So I caught like their last song, but our friends that did catch them said they were like being very self-deprecating the entire time. They're like, oh, we're that band from the 90s that's still around kind of thing. So
I mean, it's true.
Yeah, no, but I think they also lost their main like songwriter and stuff. Like he died a while ago, so I think they kind of lost a step there. So not stunning reviews from them, but yeah.
Do you think that everything like that would be a good pick for like the throwback slot at Roo? Like, we had Third Eye Blind some years ago.
Right. Yeah, that was like 2016. I think they played on Sunday.
I've been campaigning for us to get the Goo Goo Dolls. Like, I know a lot of people cringe at that, but I think it would be a good fit for that kind of slot.
It seems like there's a lot of guilty pleasures right now that are bubbling up to the surface with like Creed and Nickelback and all those bands that people are like, you know what? That would actually be fun. So
don't you talk smack about Creed.
I wasn't really. And I know that I have an army if I say anything bad against them anyway. So,
What's some of the other shows you've been to? You have an abundance of things to pick from up in that area.
right. Mayor had another leg of his tour. I went to 3 or 4 of those shows. Philly, New York. I don't know, 2 New York shows. Ripe just played down the street from me, in Jersey City. And then I think one of the next topics we want to get to is Moon Taxi. So they played in Brooklyn Bowl.
Okay, so yeah,
a
I just
couple
want to get
weeks
to
ago.
that. Can you tell me a little bit about Brooklyn Bowl first? Like we have kind of an offshoot nearby here in Nashville, but I don't know the whole story. I assume that's the OG. Like, what can you tell us about that venue?
Yes, it might actually be my favorite venue around. So it's part restaurant, part bowling alley, and part music venue, and it's all kind of opened up into one room. It's really awesome, really fun. Their food's really good too. It probably holds less than 1,500 people or so, like at high capacity. I think I was talking with people after the show that have been to the Nashville one, and the Nashville one is, I think, significantly bigger. So this one's relatively small. I think they also have one in Vegas, and they just opened up one in Philly too. So got to check. I'll probably get down to the Philly one soon enough.
It's kind of a cool concept to take, a music venue and kind of give it just a little bit of a Dave and Buster's concept where there's like
Yeah,
things to do there. And I
it
don't know why they haven't had bowling for soup there yet.
we'll have to check on their schedule for that one.
All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it probably also hedges their bets with like financials too, because if you have a bowling alley during the day, your venue's not sitting empty from noon till 7 p.m. So
Yeah.
that probably helps in that too. So probably a good business model.
If you're like a club/venue and you're not the Ryman where you're basically a museum too, like what do you do the rest of the time? It's just sitting in the dust.
Right.
So, all
So
right, we got to get to this story. Like, how did you come to be Moon Taxi's official photographer that night?
so I'll start at the beginning. Moon Taxi was my first ever Roo show in 2012. They played Thursday night, and it was a blowout. It was super fun. They when they played Killing in the Name cover, I turned to my friend Fuzz, and I was like, that was like the moment I fell like in love with Bonnaroo. So then, they became one of my favorite bands. I started seeing them whenever they were in town, and then just like I think probably around 15 or 16, I started just taking like random decent cell phone photos at shows. And then I got in deeper and then I bought a camera, and then it snowballs from there. But so I think originally how I started getting in contact with them, I became friendly with them at like meet and greets and stuff. And then one year after Okeechobee, they were promoting Too High, and they wanted to use one of my photos for the promo material for
Oh,
it.
cool.
So they reached out to me then. They ended up not using it, but I think it got me the contacts I needed. And then I'm friends with like a bunch of their crew, and they're all from Tennessee too, which is perfect. So like we were hanging out with Matt, their light guy and sound guy, tour manager. He was doing this year, he was doing the lighting for Diarrhea Planet at on Thursday night.
That's cool.
But yeah, so whenever they come in town, I just reach out to them, and we're super friendly now. So they let me shoot the shows. I send them photos afterwards, and it's a nice relationship we got there.
When you're working with a band like that, do you talk with them ahead of time and be like, "Hey, what do you guys need? Like, what's going to be some cool stuff that you can use?" Or did they just leave it to you?
In my previous experience, I've never really had a lot of pre-show time with them because they kind of, a lot of bands like to keep to themselves before their show. I've seen them 27 times, so I have a pretty good idea of what their moves are going to be, and so pretty easy to anticipate what they're going for. I'm also not their full-time photographer, so that they don't need anything really specific for me. So more of just an auxiliary guy. My friend Ross Buston is their full-time guy. He also works with My Morning Jacket. So he gets a lot of their necessary promo material and that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's a really cool dude.
So what would you say your look is compared to like other concert photographers? What are you going for? What do you kind of pre-plan that you want your picture to look like?
Um, I like to probably capture I mean, probably everyone likes to do this, but the most dramatic moments of a show. Um, you know, hands up in the air, crowd getting really into it. If you can get someone jumping up as high as they can for a big drop in the song, that's usually makes for a good one. Um, Probably my editing style kind of varies as trends change. So I've been getting into a little more black and white, high contrast stuff lately. It also makes it a little easier to edit because
Yeah.
black and white just looks good with everything. And then probably color stuff. There's, I think, more like filmic vintage look is getting kind of popular right now. So I've been sticking around with looks like that.
Something that I noticed that you were able to do really well back at Bonnaroo was get a lot of shots of the Foo Fighters, but from the pit. And our little crew was behind you. We were in the back of the pit that night, but you were like what, like 2 or 3 rows back from the rail?
Probably a little further than that, but I would probably say maybe a total of 30, 40 feet from the rail. So probably 6 or 7 rows back. Yeah.
How in the world do you
Which was
manage?
it was well, we were also dead center too, which
Oh
helps
yeah.
a lot because you get a lot of good angles.
How in the world do you manage to navigate all of that chaos? I mean, you're seeing one of your top three favorite bands, if not the top favorite band, and everybody around you is like dancing and headbanging. Like, how do you navigate like all of that stuff happening at once and still get a good picture?
Uh, Concentration. And for every really great shot that you get, there's probably 6 or 7 that nobody ever sees. So
Very true.
a lot of it is, you got to just pick the best ones. And so if you get, like a lot of people don't know, if you get a 10-15% hit rate out of a show, that's really, really good. So out of that show, I think I had 1,200 photos, and then I probably, yeah, I filled up an entire memory card for that show, I think. And then so I probably ended up with 50 like usable, presentable ones. So, take that percentage and you get, I don't know, 10% would be great. Um, yeah. So, and I have to also have trust that I have kind of sturdy gear because I was definitely getting bumped into a lot. So the gear that I have, it's not fragile. Otherwise, like this
Okay,
stuff
well,
is like the current stuff I have has been, I have probably 6 or 7 years with some of this stuff, and it's been through a bunch of Bonnaroos, and so I know it holds up to bumps and bruises well. So I'm not totally, and I've shot shows in the rain and everything, so I'm not tremendously nervous that anything tragic on that front is going to happen. And kind of just putting your elbows up and making some room for yourself goes a too.
so I won't understand most of what you're about to tell me, but just for those people who are into photography and are kind of gearheads, can you tell us a little bit about like what you're using out there?
Sure. So I have a Sony A7R III, which is getting old now, but it does the job for my purposes. Then I have a 16-35, which is a really, really wide angle lens, which is probably only good if you're really close to the stage. Then what I usually use for the most part is 24-70, which is a mid-range lens. And then for the past couple years, I got a Tamron 70-180 2.8 lens, which has been absolutely stellar for getting long range photos that look really close up. So that's pretty much the lens I had on like the entire time for like that Foo show, for example.
One thing that I've noticed just from my very amateur stuff on my phone is, the past couple of years, most of the standard iPhones have that second lens that gives you the really wide angle. And I love
Exactly.
using that to take pictures for myself or put on Instagram or whatever because, the stage might be smaller, but it's so fun seeing everybody like cut loose and carry on out in the crowd along with it, because when you have that wide lens, you can see more people right in front of you. I love
Yeah,
that.
it sets the stage a lot nicer, and you can get get a better idea of what the environment is and how everyone's feeling.
So, Evan, what do you think would be a good starter camera for someone that just wants to start getting into photography?
Ooh, good question.
That is a good question. Probably my best answer would be, I think there's like the Sony RX 100, whatever. I think the newest one. So I think you could probably, depending on what generation you get, somewhere between like $500 and $1,000. That one I would recommend because it has a fixed lens, so you'll actually be able to bring it into venues and festivals, because a lot of the limitations to bringing in cameras are it has to have a pre-attached lens less than an inch or two. So I would definitely recommend that. And then those cameras are getting so good now that you could probably do really well with that. And then by the time you start getting like a photo pass, then you could get like more significant gear, and by that time you'll probably have a good idea of what you want and what you need. But I think those, even like the iPhones and cell phone cameras are getting so good now that you could probably get a really good amount of work as long as you know what you're doing. And kind of like I was saying before, a lot of good photography ends up is having the vision in the first place, and then on the back end doing the editing. And a lot of, basically what I'm trying to say is a lot of the good photography comes through as you edit and kind of executing that initial vision that you had when you were shooting the show.
So you brought up something interesting, and this will be our last thing. We can talk about this all night, but we got to talk totem stuff too. But I got one more kind of technical question for you. If somebody has one of those really good iPhone cameras, they got it in their pocket already, and they're trying to take pictures out in Roo, what would be your suggestion for them in terms of like framing a good picture? Like, what should they have an eye for?
So I would probably look up a couple of YouTube videos about composition. You'll quickly learn about rule of thirds, which is basically having points of interest in your photo not in the center usually, but kind of 1/3 from either side. It makes a photo more interesting. There's also leading lines if you want to. I'm not sure if you're allowed to bring these in, but like a small tripod, you could do long exposures, which are really fun, especially at night. You can get all the lights going around, Ferris wheels, the fountains.
Ooh,
so yeah, so I would probably recommend those couple things, and probably getting long exposures was one of the best ways to capture Bonnaroo, because you get all the movement and all the lights.
So that would probably be... I do. Would that work if you were trying to get a long exposure of like the lasers going all over the place at the other or something like that?
Repeat the question again.
Like, say you were going to do a long exposure and you were going to sneak in a small tripod. If you were to set it up at the back of the field in front of the other, like how would that turn out with all the lasers and everything going on? Would it just be a big blur, or would it look cool?
You would have to play around with how long the exposure is, but you could get a lot of the lights like bopping around. Probably if you did a couple second one, if you did one for like a minute, you would have a lot of the people walking around, and it would show the movement as they were walking and dancing and stuff like that. If you did it a really long time, it would probably just be a sea of light. So you could probably get 3 or 4 different shots in the same position, just by adjusting your exposure time.
You made me think of something crazy. I was reading an article about the new James Webb telescope, and it does these long exposures of galaxies and crazy things that are like millions of light years away. And it has a problem now, or maybe not the Webb, sorry, it may be the Hubble, one or the other. Anyways, satellites in orbit will get in front of it, and it just creates these long streak lines like in front of these different galaxies and nebulas and things. It's kind of trippy looking. Made me think of that kind of festival photography, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, photography goes across many different genres, and the laws are applicable across them. So that's what makes it kind of fun.
All right, Evan, we could talk about that kind of stuff all night, but the reason you're here tonight is we're trying to highlight all of our different Totem board members, and I'm so happy that you came on board, not to make a pun, with us here, a month or so ago?
Mm-hmm.
A month or so ago.
That
We've
sounds
had
right.
our Mount Olympus Discord channel where we have all been talking business and throwing around ideas, and you have had so many good brainstormed ideas for us, Evan, and I can't thank you enough. I was curious, like, why did you choose to accept a board position? Like, what kind of drew you to it? What are you hoping to do as part of Totem in the next couple of years?
Well, probably what drew me to it was I felt like I was already involved anyway, so might as well make it
Very
official.
true.
So, yeah, because you guys are in that Discord too, so it's there's constantly conversations going around about dozens of different topics at all times. So if I'm going to be that engaged in something, might as well make it for a good cause.
You were beyond engaged for us last year, and we can't thank you enough for helping us out with Camp Rubus that we did last year in terms of getting everybody in and making sure that we were sane and not anarchic.
Oh God.
Well, it's a labor of love. So
It is, and like you had a very analytical way of looking at a lot of these things, not just for like our campground last year, but just some of the stuff that we've been cooking up with Totem. And I'm just curious, like where does that come from? Like it seems like you've had a lot of expertise with logistics on these kind of things.
yeah, so part of my background is I'm also an Eagle Scout. So I grew up where we had to like plan a lot of camping trips, and eventually I became one of like I went on this big expedition to New Mexico. It was a 110-mile trip, and that was kind of my first time ever taking a leadership position. um and so we had to lead this crew through, and I was in charge. I had other people associated with me, but that was kind of my first time taking. It's a very logistical a big logistical challenge, and you're in charge. My other part of my background is I'm also an engineer, so for transportation. So just kind of the way my brain works is, I think, leans logistically. And I've also just led another like probably 10 trips to Bonnaroo at this point. So having that experience of kind of knowing how things work, what you need, how people are going to be, goes a long way as well.
I knew a lot about your Roo experience and your engineering experience, but I didn't know as much about your Eagle Scout experience. And now I'm like, this makes so much more sense now. What kind of
Yeah.
trip was that back in the day? Like you said, 10-day hiking trip or something like that?
Yeah, so it's called Philmont. It's in the mountains of New Mexico. We flew into Boulder, Colorado, and then take a bus down to New Mexico. Our
Gosh.
crew was 12 people. I was 16 at the time. And then we had 4 adults that are really only there for health and safety. So the scouts are really in charge of pretty much everything. So you have to pick up and everything's on your back. You got to carry your food, pick it up every couple days, and it's very strenuous and very challenging. And I think it was pretty formative. Um, and it sounds ridiculous because it's only a 2-week trip, but I think it was very formative
No,
for.
I can imagine how. Have you ever
Yeah.
thought about doing something like that again and doing like the Appalachian Trail or the PCT or something like that?
Uh, Appalachian Trail, you'd have to take months off to do, because I think you even have to start in May to ever finish it. But I do hints of it. I have friends up in Maine that we do kind of adventures with. Probably a super high uh, strenuous activity is already Roo for me for that. So it's kind of a combination. I don't know if I have uh just a pure hiking trip in me, because there's only so many vacation days that we
Yeah,
are blessed.
we
So.
me and Charlie know the struggle. Trust us. I always thought it would be cool to just do like a very small portion of one of those. We did like just a little bit in Yosemite years and years ago.
Yeah.
Appalachian Trail like starts not too far from Russ's house, Lord Taco's house, like on the
Yeah.
other side of Georgia. Like doing the
Yeah.
whole thing that's a big commitment,
Mhm.
but I do think it would be fun to like backpack just a couple of nights on one.
Oh, totally. But yeah, I think kind of that sense of adventure I capture in other ways where it's not that strenuous of and dedicated of a trip.
Hey, be
And I like
careful.
to have a little
Talking
I
about
like
it.
to have a little more fun, as you know.
You keep talking about adventure. I'm going to talk you into going to Burning Man with us next year,
Yeah. I don't think that's too hard.
man. I appreciate your honesty about it. All right, Evan, getting back into totem stuff, you know this, but for everybody else, one big thing that we're trying to do is pass things on to the next generation. And we've had things like the beer exchange and the party at the Roo Bus and stuff like that. But I'm curious what you think. What do you think we might see in the future from the next generation? Do you think that there's any big gap that could be filled out in the campgrounds with some sort of new activity or activation or just anything at all that the next generation could be providing us out in Outeroo?
Um, I'm not sure. I don't have anything off the top of my head, but there's, I think anything that can intermingle people in a genuine way, much
Hmm.
like the um, because we're all friends that just haven't met yet. So exchange, the trivia last year was a great idea. So I think any whatever the vehicle is to get people to interact with each other that's outside of the group that you drove there with, I think is a fantastic idea. um there's already so much that goes into Roo, so anyone that can go above and beyond and set up their own event in the campgrounds is a real hero.
Yeah.
So
That's kind of what we're
um
trying to facilitate through the mentorship program and the scholarship program. And you just had a really good point. Something that gets people organically to intermingle with people that they might not have met otherwise. Like you said that and you talked about Charlotte's trivia show, and it made me think like, oh, maybe some kind of game show because we were joking about like the Price is Right before we started recording.
yeah,
Like,
there's an idea right there.
some kind of wait, we were joking about Price is Right, but for Wooks. Was that grilled cheese shouldn't be more than $1, man? I don't know. That's a good. We don't have to have the answers tonight. That's something that a scholarship, uh, that the person winning our scholarship should figure out. Like, what is something that gets people to meet one another and learn about one another? I think that's a good idea, Evan.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know if it's a fully fleshed out idea, but I think as long as whatever your ideas has that heart to it, it should easily be successful, and people will probably make at least friends for the week, if not, friends for years.
Oh well, already it's gonna be friends for years. That you met with a funny totem for 5 minutes 10 years ago, you're still friends with on Instagram.
You bet.
Well, Evan, thanks so much for coming on with us tonight. And we have one last thing for you. We talked about this earlier. And if you don't have something, that's totally cool. You can come back later. Do you have something you want to pick for us, like a show you've been enjoying, or a movie you saw recently, or an album that you've really been into?
I actually thought of something in the meantime.
Ooh.
Um, so this is going to be completely on brand for me. So Mayer just released his own. He just released a his own Sirius XM channel,
Oh, I didn't
and
know that. That's cool.
yeah, you don't have to be a fan of his music. It's his curation of music, and the concept is that it adapts to the time of day. I was actually playing it throughout the day at my parents' house for Thanksgiving, and he put on like a Thanksgiving playlist, and it so like, and then like Wednesday night he's like, yeah, it's Thanksgiving Eve, so we're gonna put on party music. And then so like it's a set it and forget it radio station, and it really expands the breadth of what you listen to, because there's like old stuff like Bill Withers, um like, and then new stuff, Miss Lauryn Hill. So it's a really really strong variety. Friday nights Diplo does like a 2-hour set now at 9 o'clock. So it's a really original idea that I think has a lot of legs to it. And like I said, you don't really need to be a fan of his music specifically, because it will quickly introduce you to a lot of stuff you're unfamiliar with. But it's super super cool.
I love that concept because one thing that I miss in the Spotify era is having curated music like you would have back in the day on terrestrial radio, or like
Yeah.
you hear on Sirius XM or something like that. Somebody that has really good taste that you trust, picking things that you know and love, but also new things that you haven't necessarily heard of. And for you, your boy John is the perfect guy to do that.
Yeah. And like I said, across generations, my parents loved it, my cousins loved it, so it worked for everyone. So I'm sure with like Christmas and stuff coming up, it'll adapt for that. So if you need something to play for 12 hours while your family's over. Get ready for it.
Evan, I think
Because
you have let people know whether or not they want to hand you the aux cord if they're around. And I love you, and I think that I would hand you the cable, my man.
love you too.
Well, Evan, thanks again for hanging out
Thank
with
you.
us tonight. I appreciate you so much helping us out with Totem. And I think everybody can come hang with you at Roo. Sounds like we might have a little cheese to throw around for friends and well-wishers at Roo.
You bet.
Yeah. All right. Take care, man. Thanks a bunch.
You too.
Okay, thank you, Evan. That was awesome.
It is always an amazing hang with Evan Bonnaroo.
Yeah, he did our parking last year
Yes.
for our Rubus group.
Yeah.
That was fun. Probably not as fun.
Fun
for
is a
him.
good way to put it. Yeah. Oh boy. Charlie, you know what we didn't do before we started talking with Evan?
Patreons.
We got to thank our
Yeah,
Patreons.
we said we were going to do it after.
Yeah, well, let's just do it now. And I challenged her. We don't do this super often because she's afraid that she's going to butcher
Oh, I
somebody's
already
name.
say one that I'm going to butcher.
Yeah, but
so.
we're going to give it a try. We're
The
going to
last names?
we're going to list everybody with their full names
What if
this
somebody
week.
doesn't want their last name?
Well, sorry. Just tell us. We won't do it again.
Okay.
So let's go. We're going to go full names here. You ready?
All right, I'm ready. J.B. Shank, Sam Carbine, Austin Sarah Bia Hawk, Madeline Hodge, James Whitfield, Chelsea, a.k.a. Hygiene Queen, Ryan Pascal, Chris Horner, Skylar, Daniel Raymer, Ernst, Willen Weber,
We love you, Ernst.
Bill, Harris Williams, Keith Sears, Casey Arbuckle, Chloe Rose, Dave Uniball, Amanda Snyder, Aaron Lord, Nick
Magalia.
Wigelia.
You know him.
He's so fantastic.
Yes. Nick, I still have that thing that you gave me that last night hanging in the bus. I love it, and I love you.
He's like, I got this off of a whoop.
We can tell stories about that night.
Maddie McCracken, McFerg, Kent Summers, Randy, Greg, Eric and Ben.
Hey, Bill.
Oh, Eric and Ben Abel.
Yeah.
Evan,
Hey, Evan Brown.
Evan Brown. Jay Sanders, Chloe Hannon, and Sean McCarthy.
Thank you, everybody. That is at patreon.com/Rubus, and 100% of what you give goes to the Totem Foundation. And those of you that have given, even through a one-time donation or through the Patreon, I'm going to be sending you a receipt here in a couple of weeks where you can claim it on your taxes. And talk with your accountant. I can't be the authority on that, but you should probably talk to an
Yes. You should say it's tax deductible.
I should say it's tax deductible. That is true. Now that we are a 501c3.
Per your accountant.
Yeah, per your accountant.
Per your H&R block.
Yeah. It is at patreon.com/Rubus, and 100% goes to Totem. It is going to fund the per diem and things for our scholarship winners, and we're going to get some promotional things to have a tent out at Bonnaroo where we're going to tell more people about what we're doing with Totem. And we've talked about this before, but for anybody that has missed it, we're going to be awarding 2 scholarships to Bonnaroo this coming year. And Bonnaroo itself is helping us. They're going to donate the tickets, but we still have to help them out in terms of camping, food, because we want this to go to somebody that's financially disadvantaged. So we want to hook them up and not put any burden on them. And this is all in return for something that they are going to provide for us at Bonnaroo. So it's going to be either some kind of new event, or they're going to invest in themselves and job shadow at Bonnaroo, and we'll help them further their careers. And also, if you didn't know it, you should have known it by now, we're doing that mentorship program. So, some homework for all of you. Sign up as a mentor. Get a rookie to sign up as a mentee. Get somebody who would, qualify for it to sign up for the scholarships. We're really relying on you all to spread the word for us, especially to people that we don't get to talk to. So when you go to these family dinners or like office Christmas parties, things like that, help us spread the word. It does us so much good. You can learn more at totemfnd.org. And did I hit all the points in the elevator pitch there?
Share the scholarship application.
Yeah, that especially.
Yes. We will be choosing a scholarship winner sometime around March-ish.
Yeah, I'll be transparent. I've been talking with some of the people at Bonnaroo, and we're going to do it a little bit later than we initially anticipated because they're going to help us out with promotion, since we're going to pretty much be an official partner with Bonnaroo this year, one of the nonprofit partners. So they're going to help us out. So we're going to take a little bit more time. But for right now, the loosey-goosey deadline is end of February for both of those programs.
Yes, but we would like to have some more people apply for that scholarship. So share it out if you can.
Yes, please do. Do we have anything else on Totem? Do you want to move to weekly picks?
I want to move to weekly picks because
All right.
I have a couple of good ones.
Charlotte has some good ones. Let's hear them.
So speaking of book more women, I have a couple of women artists that I wanted to share. We've already shared and talked about Wanda. So I have one that I've been following for a while now. She played Bonnaroo last year, but I think, I could be mistaken, I think that she also did like a campground show or something similar.
Yeah.
Sam Hatmaker. Her music is a little similar to Adeem the artist, just kind of a folksy country artist type, and you should definitely go check her out.
All right.
And
good pick.
actually follow her on Twitter and TikTok, and she has replied to me a couple of times, and she's just very, very friendly, very, very nice. So go check her out if you can. I would love to see her at Bonnaroo in an official capacity. So the second artist that I wanted to choose for my weekly pick is an Atlanta-based punk band with a female lead singer. It's called the Killikee House. And I'm not really a big punk music person, but I actually discovered her on TikTok. And I didn't discover her because of her music on TikTok. She actually went viral because she was telling a really funny story about when she used to work at a Waffle House with someone. She was telling like a really funny story about this person she used to work with and all their crazy adventures and stuff. And then she made a plug. She's like, oh, because this video went viral, here's a plug for my band. And so I downloaded a couple of their songs on Spotify, and I was like, this is really good. It's not like too heavy for me. It's like kind of mildish, but the Killikee House is the name of them, and they're from Atlanta and just really good. So check them out as well.
Can you post that on your Twitter so people can find that? Because I know the pronunciation and spelling.
I actually did.
You
today,
did?
yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we were plugging a lot of smaller act bands that we would like to see along with Wanda, and that was one of yours?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. Very good.
I plugged both of them, so.
All right. Do you have any others?
That's it.
All right. I do not have any picks that good. Those are two very, very good ones. You had me at Waffle House. Remember, the first rule of Fight Club is not to talk about it. Anyways, if I were to pick anything this week, I have been enjoying this silly Nintendo game, Mario Wonder. I got that before me and Charlotte were traveling over Christmas. And man, I don't know how else to put this, so forgive me. It's Mario on acid. So a lot of Bonnaroo people are going to enjoy that game. If you want something fun to play over the holidays, and even though I make that joke, it's great for kids, it would make a great Christmas present as well. So that's my pick for this week. Yours are far superior to mine this week. I like that we had a theme in our little bumper bits around the interview with Evan about getting more women to play Bonnaroo.
Yeah.
That is a big deal, and I hope that the bookers have taken that seriously over the past couple of months, as they have probably rounded out most of the lineup. I know that it's tough, but it has to be done. And again, I'm going to come full circle and highly suggest that everybody go listen to the new podcast, The Femme Flock. I think the ladies there should have a voice in this whole thing, and just some old white guy like me shouldn't be the one talking about this kind of stuff. So please take over for me this. In fact, on that note, why don't you wrap things up for us, Sharla?
Okay, Daniel, do you have anything else?
I have a dog sitting on my shoulder over here.
Is there anything else you want to say?
Oh, there's a lot of things I want to say, but I think I'm done for the podcast for this week.
Okay, well, in that case, get out there and radiate positivity.
I'll try.
Bye.